Hey guys, and Jamie here. I am absolutely thrilled to be partnering with you guys as you aspire toward the goals that you either have or will be sharing with me. Partnering up, teaming up together to work toward bettering ourselves through fitness, through nutrition, and through the mental strategies that will allow us to get there and get there successfully, and allow this process and this journey to be one that is long-term and absolutely not part of the vicious yo-yo cycle that so many people really experience today. So I wanted to talk about 4 concepts before you get going, whether you're doing the 12 weeks of awesome, the home edition, or the routine through the gym. Either way, these concepts will be applicable to you. Okay, so number 1, I wanted to briefly talk about modifications. Modifications are something that people may or may not need, and they may need it in one exercise, they may need it in a lot of the exercises, or maybe even in all, depending on where you're starting at. Okay, I want you guys to know firstly that modifying, there is absolutely no shame in that, right? I want you to imagine your body where it is. If you are working, okay, we're taking that intensity up, we're taking that effort up, even if it's a modification from the originally programmed exercise, you are still challenging your body just as much as everybody else. Your body just has different needs at this time, so please do not fall into the trap that tells us that if we're modifying, we're not working hard. Okay, modifications are a critical element for many, but if you do not need to modify, then I'm going to put my foot down and say don't, okay? So with modification, there's a few different ways that you can modify any exercise, okay? First modification that you can do is to decrease your range of motion. If you think about a joint, traveling from A to B, a full range of motion is going to be a complete stretch and a complete contraction, okay? If you have to modify that back, whether you have pain in a joint, whether you are struggling to accomplish that range of motion without other muscles jumping in to compensate, or whether you may not have the strength to perform that movement, right? Like a squat is a great example, right? Decrease your range of motion using the squat as an example. Instead of going all the way down, legs parallel to the floor, maybe half of that, so about 45 degrees or so. That would be one example. Second example would be to decrease the intensity. So whether you are doing the home or the gym routine, there is going to be a HIIT workout in your future, depending on what category you fall under, and then what phase of those categories as well. But dialing down the intensity, especially with your HIIT routine, you will probably see that I have pre-selected or pre-programmed times of work and rest ratios, right? So if you are working 30 seconds, resting 30 seconds, that's going to be a 1-1 ratio, right? That is going to be level 1 scenario there. The next one I believe I have at 40 and 20, 40 seconds of work, 20 seconds of rest. That is a 2-1, right? So that is increasing that intensity. If you cannot maintain your form and your heart is beating out of your chest, again, it should be, but not to the point of overdoing it, because there are progressions for the cardiorespiratory system, as well as progressions for our muscles and our skeletal frame and so forth. So again, dialing down that intensity to still push yourself. Do not use that as a fallback to rely on, because you just don't really want to do the harder stuff. I want you to really push yourself and see what you're capable of. But for those that this is applicable to, please understand that you can absolutely do less, okay? Decrease that ratio, so you have 1-1, okay? So that's the intensity. We have range of motion. We also have speed. If you have an explosive movement, especially in that HIIT routine, right? Not in our lifts per se, but in a HIIT routine where we're trying to elevate heart rate, okay? Make it lower impact. Don't make it as explosive. Again, I'm going to always say this, please push yourself, but understand that it is a viable option to decrease the impact and the speed and all of that, to kind of moderate it and present it at a level that we can accommodate, okay? So, modifications, done. Number 2, I wanted to talk about the HIIT concept. since I referenced the high intensity interval training a lot in the last subject, I wanted to talk about the ratios. And like I kind of already touched on a little bit, the 2-1 work rest ratio as well as the 1-1, same thing, different levels. However, the concept with HIIT is to take those breaks. It doesn't mean stand there completely stationary, but just kind of pace, walk around the room, do something that is very, very, very low intensity, okay? When we can create that spurt of energy, right? Pushing, going all out, giving 100% during your work time, then using that valley or that dip in expenditure to our advantage. And when the cardiorespiratory system is put in the position where it's going up and down and up and down, you're going to get a much more effective workout in less time, as opposed to a more steady state cardio session. Obviously, there are benefits to steady state, but for the purpose of this program, I really want you to give it your all during those times of work. It is not just kind of given 50% effort. The point is to push to your limits, challenge your capacity, and see what your threshold really is. Again, breaks or off time, just walk around, just kind of slow, gentle movements, nothing crazy, okay? Moving on, number 3, I wanted to talk about the 1 rep max. This is a concept that we can use to our advantage when it comes to selecting weights or the load or the resistance that you will be using in any type of strength or resistance movement. That 1 rep max, technically speaking, should be what your body can perform one time. It's absolute max that it can only do one time. We're not, competitors and such, so we're not in our peak performance. If you were, I would say the 1 rep max is slightly flawed as it transfers over into other training, but for the sake of this, it is absolutely going to be an ideal way for us to make sure that we are using the weights that are going to stimulate and promote a response from our muscles in the way that we want them to, okay? So you might see 60 to 70%, per se, of your 1 rep max. That means your 1 rep max with good form. If your body is compromising or moving in ways where other muscles are jumping in when they shouldn't be, then that is not a rep that we are going to count or consider in how many we can get done. So you can read more about that in the program that I sent you, but I just wanted you guys to understand what it is, what we're using it for, and how we can then work our way backwards to get to the weight amounts that we want to use on leg day, on chest and arms day, on back and shoulders day, and so forth. If you only have a couple of sets of dumbbells handy, if you're doing the home program, just use what you've got. Consider investing in additional weights, but if you don't have that at your disposal, that is absolutely fine. In the link that's in the program, you can actually click on that, and if you find that a weight that you have falls under a rep count that is slightly different than the one in the program, consider following that. So let's say the weight that you have, if we're working within that 60 to 70% of our 1 rep max, let's say that the weight that you have lines up with 15 reps instead of 12. Do that instead then, okay? Just wanted to give a little bit of a backstory before we move forward now, okay? Number 4, last concept that I wanted to share with you guys is mobility. I kind of touched on it again in that first topic that I discussed with you about modifications, right? A joint through its full range of motion. So I wanted to talk about mobility and how it applies to that, because mobility is the ability for you to send a joint through its full range of motion by internal force only. One example real quick, if I were to stretch my chest right here by putting my hand on the wall, right, I'm stretching my chest open. That is flexibility here, no real internal forces being produced in order to get this arm back. But if I replicate the same movement and I use my back muscles here to draw that hand all the way back, and I can accomplish that same stretch of the chest, right? Stretching and contracting. That is a general concept of mobility, using your strength and your flexibility to send your joint through a full range of motion, okay? So let's say we're doing arm circles. My strength on my back is gonna pull that arm far back, right? Same thing with the chest as it comes forward. And I'm not just kind of letting it drop. I'm using and producing internal force through my body to make that joint travel. You can apply this to your lunges, or really anything. Okay, so working on mobility is something that allows us to remain mobile throughout our lives, especially as we age and we get stiff and we get rigid from sedentary living, non-use, and actual atrophy as we age, which is why our metabolism goes down. Mobility is something that I really want you to harness, especially on you know, if you're doing the home program, we have the primal movements, right? That is going to be something that I want you to really focus on, the full stretch, the full squeeze, again, and same can be said for the gym routine as well, okay? If you guys have any questions at all about anything that I just said, or maybe something that I did not cover in this video, I am at your disposal. Please reach out to me. Do not feel like there is a dumb question here. There is so much to not only fitness, but our entire being through that process that we are about to go through, that there's absolutely no such thing as a stupid question. So please reach out to me, use me. That is why we're doing this. That is why you and I are teaming up together, for you to ask me things, for me to ask you things, and to have this open dialogue back and forth throughout these 12 weeks. Yes? All right. Go kick some butt.